All right, welcome back. This is going to be a recap for this Wednesday, the 30th of August, 2023. These are the trades that I made this today. I didn't do any indices. Was looking for some entries. Didn't get them. So anyway, no indices. Nah, didn't do gold. Didn't do natural gas. And the only thing I did was stocks. But I did have a really nice trade on ICCT. This was my very first trade I put on this morning. Came in as an HF1. So this is my entry. The yellow lines are my entries. The red lines are my exits. So I had an HF1, went ahead and bought it. Down here is around 680 at the time. We had a nice run to the upside. We pulled back. I added a little bit more. In here around 830. Unfortunately, I did go through this flush, but I did not get out because I was still holding on a little bit of profit in here on this pullback. So also saw when I was looking at Bookmap, if you were with us this morning, still could see a lot of buying coming in, and I really didn't see any reason to scramble. I didn't think it was going to be a flush, and sure enough, it ended up taking off. As it took off, I went ahead and I added more right here. I ended up lifting half of my position right here, and I ended up lifting half of the rest of the position, which is the full exit right here. Now, this particular trade was an HF1. This was just an add-on to the HF1. There was no patterns up here on this. These were all my targets. It did exceed all the targets. I did go ahead and get out. This thing just exploded after hours. This thing went all the way up to $42. Just a huge explosion. But you know, once again, I mean, who can predict something like that, you know? Still ended up with a really nice day on ICCT. And so I was happy with that. We'll take a look at one more that I traded, and we'll look at all the rest. All right, let's look at one more stock here, NCMI. Okay, so let's just, a couple things I want to talk about. I know a lot of people that have been, that watch these videos, you're either new to trading or you've been trading for a while. And one of the things I want to say about trading is that if you want to be successful in this business, you got to come up with your own way of looking at the markets. All right. Hey, let me clarify that a little bit. See, the problem is if you look at all successful traders in the past. Let's look at Jesse Livermore, right? We all have heard of Jesse Livermore, very successful, but he was a tape reader. He looked for patterns in the tape reading, right? He was watching basically order flow, which is real important. So he had his own unique approach to it. Or let's look at W.D. Gann, right? He had his unique approach. Or the Elliott Wave. All these things, when they first came out, they used them with a lot of success. And the reason for that is because it wasn't quite in the public domain yet. The problem is when everybody starts using the same tools, it saturates it so much to where they don't become effective anymore, all right? And so if you want to be successful, all right, you don't need to be following the crowd. And I can hear a lot of you telling me, well, Ken, you know, I know this RSI works, or this works, or that works, you know, or, you know, I trade support and resistance, but everybody is looking at support and resistance. Do you want to follow the crowd? I mean, do you really want to get into that? You've got to be smarter than everybody else. You got to find a unique way of trading those support and resistance lines. You have to look for something different when you're using maybe a moving average or a stochastics, all right? Because everybody else is using it. But why compete with all of that? When I first started trading 40 years ago, it was pretty evident to me that all the clients that I knew that were trading were all using all the same indicators. They're all looking at the same thing, and everybody was losing money. All right? And so I knew that if I wanted to be successful, I had to come up with a very unique way of looking at the markets, and my entries had to be different than everybody else's. And that's pretty much what these videos are all about. All right? I'm not telling you I'm the best trader in the world. I'm definitely not the best trader in the world. There's a lot of traders that are a lot better than I am, but I can tell you that what I have developed over the last 40 years is pretty solid, okay? It's based on very sound principles. It is not in the public domain. I do not want to get it out into the public domain where thousands and thousands of people are using it. That's not the intent. The intent is to basically demonstrate there are other ways of looking at the markets and trading the markets, all right, that is not publicly available. All right, is this the one and only way of looking at it? No, there's thousands of different ways of looking at it. The way I look at it is unique. If you've read any of my articles, if you read my article back in I think I wrote that back in 1985, 86. I wrote about the holographic market. If you haven't, go to my website, look at that article about the holographic market. All right, I was looking at the markets a lot differently back then. All right, and I have simplified the process down to 4 simple patterns. And I use something called Einstein, which is actually something that I didn't develop. It was developed by a very successful trader that traded mainly the indices, and he traded treasury bonds, and I believe he also did some crude oil. And it's based on some really sound principles, and it provides with very high probability profit targets. So when I combine it with my patterns, all right, it just continues to repeat itself over and over again in all markets. And that's really what I'm trying to show here. All right, I'm not expecting anybody to duplicate what I do. Don't expect that you're going to come in and start making thousands of dollars, because you are not. It's like any other tool. You have to work with that tool to get good at it. But if I'm going to, let's say I'm a carpenter and I want to build a beautiful home, I'm going to make sure I'm using the best tools and the best material. All right, I'm not going to use a cheap product. And so when you use a good tool and you master those tools, then that's what brings on success. All right, whether you're a carpenter or you're a trader, is you use good tools that are reliable, that hold up. That's number one. That within itself is tough for a lot of people to find. And then number two is then learn how to master those tools, and that's the key to success. So start looking at the markets differently. Start looking at things differently. Start looking more for patterns, not only in price, but look for patterns in volume. All right, look for patterns between different markets. Look for correlations, both positive and negative correlations. All right, everything has it, even in stocks. Look for price volume patterns. All right, look for order flow patterns. They're all there, folks. You just have to put some time into it. Nothing's going to come easy, but if you put your time into it, it will pay off. All right, but you got to work. This is not an easy business. Got to put the time into it if you want to be successful. And you got to do it on a day-by-day basis. You can't just expect that you're going to take off, and trade maybe 1 or 2 times a month and be successful. Even if I take a week off, takes me a little bit while to get back into the flow of stuff. So I got to get a feel for the market and the action and all those things. So even after, over 40 years of trading, I take a vacation. It takes me a while to get back into it. So I typically don't trade that first day when I get back. I want to get into see what's going on in the markets. What's the flow like? What's the interest? All those things. So anyway, that being said, NCMI was another trade. This was once again just this is pretty much textbook HF1 buy. HF1 buy, hit a price target, exited, and that was the end of it. Did we have more targets up here? Yeah, probably. I didn't draw them all because it was hitting so fast. But I do know that I had a target sitting up here and I took it and got out of it. All right. So overall, I didn't do a whole lot today, but I did trade 4 different stocks. I did a little bit of WBL that was coming in late in the day. It didn't quite hit my target, but I still was able to get a little bit out of it. $23, not a whole lot. And DBGI, once again, just a little scalp. So, but the big one obviously was ICCT. And I can typically catch, 1 or 2 nice runners in the morning. And it's just a matter of, you don't need a ton of them. All right. 1 or 2 is really all you need. You don't be trading a bunch of stuff. You don't be trying to trade 20 different stocks at one time. I suggest unless you've been doing this for a long, long time, stick to one market. Whether you love trading indices, which I do, stick with just indices. You can do very well. I know people that make a living out of just trading the E-mini S&P. You can do that, or you can trade the mini Russell, or you can just trade a few stocks. It's try not to make this overcomplicated. You don't need to get super diversified on what you're doing. Stick with one or two markets. Get to know their personalities and trade it and trade it and trade it, okay? That's where it's going to get you to the point of success. Nobody starts in this business making a ton of money. I see a lot of new traders come in and they have success right out of the gate, but they get overconfident and they end up blowing themselves out of the water. So you don't want to do that either. So always practice. If you're new to trading or you're trading a new approach, always start with a simulator or a demo account, and get to the point where you can show yourself, prove to yourself that you can be consistently profitable before you even think about putting real money on the line. All right? If you put real money on the line in the beginning, you're going to end up losing it. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to want to throw in the towel. And that's what happens to 99% of the traders, is they give up on how they just stuck with it and just worked it methodically, slowly, practicing with the nice things is we didn't have simulators when I first started trading, but we have them now, which is great. So start off that way and become successful there before you even think about going live. All right, one more day. Tomorrow, Thursday, Friday is probably going to be dead with the holiday coming up. So Thursday's always my favorite day to trade. I'm hoping this Thursday is going to be a good one, and so let's just wait and see what happens. Certainly we didn't have the kind of day that we had yesterday, but nonetheless, Thursdays can still end up being a pretty nice day to wrap up the week. So looking forward to tomorrow morning. Please join us every morning. The first 30 minutes is free to everybody, and then after that I move over to Discord and we continue to trade. So please join us for that first half an hour. If you have questions, if I can't get to them right away, I am pretty intensely involved with looking at the different markets, because I'm not just trading stocks, I'm also looking at some of the indices, and sometimes when they're right, I'll be looking at gold and natural gas and some of the commodities or the futures. So, if I don't get to your question right away, I'll do the best that I can to get to it. If not, you can always contact me via my website, innovativetradingstrategies.com. All right, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.